Hi guys, back again with another video in the how-to series, and today we're going to look at how to calculate the lot size based on how much risk do we want to take on the capital on one trade. So let's get to MetaTrader and let's start coding. So here I'll create a new EA. Let's call it calculate lot size, and I'll pause the video and clean it up. So I've cleaned up the template with only initialization, deinitialization, and non-tick function. Now we're going to create our function to calculate the lot size here, and then we're going to call it in our onTick function when we need to call it. So let's call this function calculate lots, and it's a double function. Now the double, and we define it as double because if we say it's double calculate lot, then basically it means that when you will run this function, the EA then expects this function to return a double value, so a value with decimals. And in order to calculate the lot size, we need to pass on some information to this function, and what we will be passing on is the stop loss point. So how big is our stop loss? So we will send that information to the calculate lots function here, and that will basically do the calculations here using this stop loss points, and then it will return a double value of lot size or a decimal value of lot size. First thing first, we need to know what the risk on a single trade is going to be, and we create a variable and we call it risk. And let's get the account information of balance, so how much is the total balance, and then we multiply it by risk percentage that we will define, divide by 100 to get how much risk do we want to take. Then we need to find what is the value of a tick size, and tick size basically means how much the price of the instrument can move. So in case of Euro USD is 0.00001. In case of USD JPY it's 0.001. So what's the lowest pip size or point size, tick size for the price to move, and then what is the value of that tick for one standard lot size. And then the third thing we're going to need is the lot size or the lot step. It's like how from 0.01 lot size it can go to 0.02. We need these three to then calculate our exposure, in the sense of, okay, well, if for every lot size per tick, how much is the value that we are risking? And that we can define as a double, saying this is the money per lot step, which is the amount of stop loss points that we will send to this function. So how big is our stop loss, divided by the tick size, how much the price can move, this is all one function, so multiply by tick value. So what's the value of that tick, and then what's the value for every incremental lot step. And once we know the money per lot step, we can go ahead and calculate what is our lot size. And this we do by dividing the risk that we defined here as total amount of risk that we want to take, divided by the money per lot step, so by the function that we have here, into the lot step. And then we use a function matfloor to basically come to an integer which is closer, so it doesn't run away. So if it's 0.01, then it is brought down to the float, the closest integer. You can remove the matfloor, but this is just a good practice to then round it up or round it down. So here now we have our lot size. So now we can return the lot size that we have calculated here by saying first return lots, but before we return the lots, let's truncate it to 2 decimal by using the function normalize double, and then we send the value of lots, and then we say cut it down to 2 decimals so that we only get 2 decimals of lots. If you want 3 decimals, then you can, for example, if you are trading VIX where it's 0.001 is the minimum lot size and you want to use that, then you have to use 3 or not use this step at all. Now, as a caution, this function is complete now, but as a caution, what we can also check is that the lot size that we have calculated here, it is allowed on the broker server side, because brokers can have a minimum lot size and a maximum lot size. And for example, for some reason, if the lot size here comes out to be bigger than the maximum lot size allowed or smaller than the minimum lot size allowed, then what to do? And this information we can check by getting by using the function symbol info double, and we use that and we say, well, for the current symbol, what is the minimum volume allowed, and for the current symbol, what is the maximum volume allowed, and pass it to the minimum volume and maximum volume variables that we can create. And then we can say that if the maximum volume is not equal to 0, meaning there is a maximum volume allowed, because if the broker hasn't set this setting, the amount is going to be 0, or what you will get here as return of this function is going to be 0. But if there is a limit for the max volume, then it's not going to be 0. The value will be more than 0. Then if it is this value is more than 0, then we want to check our lot versus the maximum volume, and we say lot size now is the math minimum, meaning out of these two variables, the lot size that we have calculated and max volume, which is allowed on the server, whichever is the lower value, that is our lot size. So in that way, what we can do is, if our lot size is bigger than the maximum volume allowed, then we're basically checking it here, and then we find out that this lot size is bigger than the max volume, so we set the lot size to maximum volume. The reverse for, or the same for the minimum value, that if the minimum volume which we have calculated here, or which we have gotten the information here, if the minimum volume set by the broker on its server is not 0, then we check that the lot size and minimum volume, which one is the bigger one. And if our lot size is smaller than the minimum volume, then we want minimum volume to be the volume. So we use the function math_max. So whichever is the bigger of these two values, that becomes the lot size. So in that case, for example, if your broker has a minimum volume value of 0.01 and the calculation of the lot size here gives 0.001, then this function is going to look saying, well, between 0.001 and 0.00 or 0.01, 0.01 is the bigger value, so math_max wise lot size becomes 0.01. So that's just good practice to check. So now that we have the entire function, now we can go ahead and create a trade in the onTick to see if it works. So now, before we go ahead and use it, we need to ask the user of the EA to define the risk percentage, because we're using it in this function. So we come up here into the global properties, and then we go input double risk percent, defining the variable, and I'm setting it to 2% for now, and we can call it the risk on one trade as a percentage of capital. So the user can input what value he wants for one trade, how much he wants to risk on one trade. Then to test it, let's go to the onTick function, and let's say if there is, and let's open up a trade. And just one thing I forgot is that because we are opening up trades, so we are engaging in trade operations. In order to engage in trade operations, we need to include the trade.mqh file, and we do that by referencing include trade/trade.mqh, so that this file is now included. The file here, trade.mqh. So now we can use that file, and we create a variable which is a ctrade variable and call it trade. I have a separate video on that if you want to know more in details of how this is done. So now that we have the trade variable, we can now come here on the onTick function, and we can go, well, let's define the price as the current price on the chart by getting the information using the symbol info double. So symbol info double, whatever is the symbol of the chart, the ask price of that. Let's set the stop loss to whatever the price is, minus 400 points, meaning 40 pips. And then we can calculate the lots by calling the function calculate lots, and then we set the distance or the stop loss value, which is the price minus the stop loss, because that is our exposure. Once we have that, then we can go, if there is no other position open, so the position total is less than 1, by using the trade function that we have created, by saying trade.buy, and we pass on this lot size for the current symbol. The price is the buying or the market price is price, which we have gotten here. The stop loss value, TP we set to 0, so no TP, and then a comment. Let's go ahead and run it and see if it works. pause it. So here on the opening, the trade is opened, and what we have now is a stop loss value. Right, the stop loss is how many points? 90 from price, 40 points. That's what we set. So this is our stop loss, and let's go ahead and let it hit our stop loss so that we can see how much did we lose. So I'll make it quick, and there we go, hit the stop loss. Oh, come on, hit the stop loss. And there our stop loss is hit, and our stop loss is hit, and the amount that we have lost is 16, which is 2% of the 1000, and it's not exactly 2% because of the math flooring that we used, so that it calculated 0.04. Maybe the exact 20 was somewhere between 0.04 and 0.05. Now, one more thing, that if you are gonna open a sell position, then you basically, your stop loss is going to be price plus 400 points because it's going to be above. And then when you're calculating the lot size, you have to pass on the information as a stop loss minus price, because you're sending how many points is the stop loss distance from the price. And in case of a sell, the stop loss is bigger than the price, so you have to send a stop loss minus the price, which is stop loss is 40 pips or 40 pips above the price. So one minus the other is the stop loss minus the price. Let's see it if it works. And here we have the sell trade, and the sell trade, the price is opened at 135.30 and the stop loss is 40 pips above, and this is why we had to send a stop loss minus the price. Now let's see where the stop loss is, and let's see if the stop loss is hit at some point in time. And there we go, the stop loss is hit, and again we have $16 as so this is how you calculate the lot size based on how big is your stop loss versus what is your capital and how much risk do you want to take on one trade. So once you have created this function, you can store it somewhere because the function is going to be exactly the same every time. And then when you're using it in an EA, if you're opening up a buy position, then you basically have to send calculate price minus the stop loss. And if you're opening up a sell position, then you have to calculate the lot by calling the function but passing on the information as stop loss minus the price. So hope this is helpful, and I'm going to be using this function in many of my hunt for profitable strategies playlist. So if you found it there and you wanted to know how to calculate how this function works, then this video should help you. Leave some comments if something is unclear or if you want to know something more. Until next time, guys, cheers.